Hello, ladies and gentlemen out there watching on YouTube, and welcome to the penultimate race, Race 35 of Season 9 of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. I am Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the Sunoco 400 at North Wilkesboro Speedway, as we're getting set for 60 laps of racing at this classic short track, as the championship battle is getting more intense as we go along. Starting lineup for the week, starting in the last row is Ryan Acosta, Charles Belding, top 10. Carson Gum getting his second pole of the season, or actually this is his third pole of the season, excuse me, with Ashlyn Boyd in second. Row 2, Keith Miller Jr., Jordan Forbes. Row 3, Alexander Rowe, Henry Sanford. Row 4, Caleb Kilburn, Joey Parkhill. Row 5, Riley Henry, James Qualls. Let's get the Command 2 fire engines for the Sunoco 400 at North Wilkesboro.
Drivers, start your engines.
Everybody rolling for the pace lap here. So yeah, like I said just a moment ago, the championship battle is getting more and more intense. And I'll go more in depth about that after we complete the first lap, but one of those championship contenders, Carson Gum, on the pole, going to look to do all he can to gain as many points as possible in hopes that he will stay alive in the championship hunt going into Friday's race at Kansas. Either way you slice it, this season has seen one of the most competitive championship battles of all time, perhaps the most competitive, especially depending on who all are going to be mathematically in contention at Kansas. But the pace car has pulled into pit road, so ladies and gentlemen, you know what that means. It's time to boogity 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 go racing. Carson Gum led the first lap here, and now new driver in second, and that is Keith Miller Jr., who's another driver looking to try and stay mathematically in contention for the championship. But speaking of that championship battle, so the point standings coming into the race today, Alyssa Drayson took the points lead over for the first time in her career by 4 points over both Zachary Fitzwater and Scott Groverston. 5 points over Matt McIntyre, 23 over Caleb Kilburn, 31 over Carson Gum, 33 over Daniel Voiles, 47 over Rafael LeDuc, 50 over Kyle Matthews, and 53 over Keith Miller Jr. So, in particular, Carson Gum trying to stay well ahead of the top 5 in the point standings, so that way he can stay in the hunt for the championship. But as I'm looking in the back there, I see one of those top 5 in the point standings, Scott Groverston, picking his way up through the field. Same with Matt McIntyre. Both of these guys doing a great job of getting through the field in hopes of trying to maintain themselves where they are in the point standings, and also to even jump ahead of Alyssa Drayson and Zachary Fitzwater. And speaking of those two, they are around mid-pack, with Drayson last scored 22nd, and then Zachary Fitzwater probably going to go as far back as 26th on the racetrack. And whoa, a little bit of contact between Daniel Bouchard and James Qualls right there in the middle of 3 and 4. That could have been disastrous, as Alyssa Drayson was right behind that as well. Going back through the field, Scott Groverston actually losing some spots now, falling back to 10th, but might actually fall back to 11th, although he actually comes down in front of Mitchell Collins to keep himself where he is on the track in 10th, now trying to rebound. Caleb Kilburn, another one of those guys trying to stay in the mathematical hunt for the title. And whoa, saw Stuart Campbell get a little bit loose off of turn 2, but trying to get up to the 4th position, trying to get around Alexander Rowe. But how about Matt McIntyre? He's currently the highest of the top 5 in points on the racetrack. Now he moves up into the 5th position. But back up here at the front, Carson Gums still hanging on to the top spot on the racetrack. And he needs to stay up there and hope that some of the other championship contenders start to struggle a little bit and he prospers. And that way he could gain a lot of points and stay within mathematical reach. And also, like I've said in recent races, this is the final season we're doing the 1 point per position system. Instead, we're going to go to the classic Winston Cup point structure, where it's 5 points per position, except for the top 2 being separated by 10 points. So that way it'd be a little bit more easy to follow in terms of the numbers. And for those wondering, is the bottom 5 system going to stay in that point structure? And the quick answer is yes, it will. So if you do end up finishing 36th through 40th, you would not be able to get points. The minimum amount of points you can get in a race is 5, finishing in 35th. But anyways, Carson Gums just basically in another world at this point, just pulling away from everybody behind him, now to a 1.7 second lead over Keith Miller Jr. But actually, let's take a look and see how the field looks currently as we are just zipping along through the early going of the race. Carson Gum has so far led every lap, and he's just pulling away in the race lead. Second is Keith Miller Jr., third is Joey Parkhill, fourth Stuart Campbell, fifth Matt McIntyre. Sixth is Scott Groverston, seventh Henry Sanford, eighth Riley Henry, ninth Mitchell Collins, 10th Kyle Matthews. 11th is Caleb Kilburn, 12th is Jordan Forbes, 13th Daniel Bouchard, 14th Alexander Rowe, 15th Jay Jefferson, 16th Henry Durand. Battle on for 17th, but it looks like... Or actually, no, 17th is Henry Durand. 18th is Alyssa Drayson. 19th, Rafael LeDuc. 20th is Ashlyn Boyd. 21st is Quentin Moore. 22nd, Michael Norman. 23rd, Jonathan Zorleen. 24th, Dylan Young. 25th, William Brock. 26th, currently Daniel Voiles. 27th, Dylan Jacobs. 28th, Jesse Turner. 29th, Patrick Smith. 30th is Cole Deaver. 31st, James Qualls. 32nd, Aaron Macklin. 33rd, Seth Cole. 34th, Zachary Fitzwater. 35th, Stephen Kalan. And then currently in 36th is Charles Belding. 37th, Chris Dollarton. 38th, Jackson Traeger. 39th, Ryan Acosta. And 40th, Jessica Shelton. So Zachary Fitzwater currently struggling on the racetrack to try and gain positions as he keeps losing spots. And he's in the danger zone of finishing in the bottom 5 yet again. And he finished bottom 5 pretty recently, and I believe that was back at Pensacola, I want to say. I can't quite remember, but it was a recent race where not only Fitzwater but Groverston finished in the bottom 5, and that's what really shook up the championship battle in a big, big way. Last time by at the line, Fitzwater was 37th, so he needs to find a way to gain spots. He's going to have to maybe hope to rely on some pit strategy whenever we get to those pit stops at around the halfway point, if we stay clean and green throughout. But meanwhile, Carson Gum just continues to pull away to a now 2.4 second lead, as Joey Parkhill has actually made a pass on Keith Miller Jr. to get to second. And Joey Parkhill is trying to do all he can to get back in the top 30 in points to lock himself into the race at Kansas, but also to get himself locked in for the first 5 races of Season 10. Meanwhile, Keith Miller Jr., I feel like he's used up everything he had in his car, and he's starting to slip back. As meanwhile, battle on for 4th, Scott Groverston trying to take the position away from Stuart Campbell, and he's going to take it. Matt McIntyre following suit. So far, these two, as well as Carson Gum, have been the strongest of the top 6 in the point standings all race long. Now let's take a look and see where the points leader, Alyssa Drayson, is last scored. Last scored 15th. So or actually now 14th. She's actually been slowly working her way through the field. Now let's try and look around for Zachary Fitzwater, see where he is. Up to 36th, but he needs to get ahead of the drivers in front of him, Dollarton and Turner, if he wants to still get points to make sure that he is still within reach of the championship. Because if he finishes bottom 5 and everybody ahead of him finishes well, then he's going to be in the danger zone of not being able to compete for the championship at Kansas, which would be a huge heartbreak considering Fitzwater, despite missing 1 race, has been very consistent, top 2 in the point standings virtually about 95% of the season. And it would be a darn shame if the 12 misses out on the championship battle. But back up at the front, Carson Gum still leading the way. Let's see the margin this time. Shrunk by a little bit. Joey Parkhill's a little bit faster than the 60 of Carson, but how about Groverston and McIntyre? 3rd and 4th respectively, and they started around mid-pack, and they've just been climbing their way together as they are trying to make sure that this championship battle is kept to a minimum and not to more drivers getting in there. And these guys are actually slowly reeling in 2nd place Joey Parkhill. But we are getting closer and closer to green flag pit stops. Because with this track and how long it is, and the pit frequency, it will be around the halfway point where we will start to see drivers come into pit road to top off on gas and maybe change tires. You can definitely tell they're going to have to change tires because they're getting slower and slower as the laps go by. As I'm looking at Carson Gum's lap times, and he's over a second slower than his best lap, and that's because of the tires wearing down. Meanwhile, Joey Parkhill maintaining lap time similar to the 60, although that time Gum was about 0.08 of a second faster. As meanwhile, Matt McIntyre has now taken the 3rd spot away from Scott Groverston, so that's going to help the 14 a little bit into trying to close the gap in the championship. But when we cross the line, it's going to be halfway through here at North Wilkesboro. So we are expecting to see pit stops come at any moment now, and they will be able to make it on gas and tires the rest of the race. Meanwhile, I'm keeping an eye out for this possible 3-car fight for the 2nd spot. Although now that's about to change as Parkhill comes into pit road, so too does Carson Gum. And because of that, it helps for McIntyre and Groverston to try and battle for an extra bonus point, and McIntyre actually got the point right there. That's going to be huge as far as the points total heading into Kansas, and McIntyre going to stay out as Groverston is going to lead another group of cars into pit road that also is going to include the points leader. And not very many drivers elected to stay out, Matt McIntyre being the one of the top 5 that decided to stay out. Henry Durand is still out there, so too is William Brock, Dylan Jacobs, Cole Deaver, Jackson Traeger, Chris Dollarton, and a few others. But Carson Gum gets out of pit road without really any issue, well ahead of Joey Parkhill, but now can he... Whoa, that was a close call, as Daniel Voiles was almost late getting into pit road, and Carson about ran him over. Luckily, we avoid... Oh, a little bit of contact for Alyssa Drayson on pit road. I don't know if that's going to really affect her much, but we'll see. As I'm looking around for the 14 of Matt McIntyre to see where he is. There he is on pit road. But I see Carson come. Carson, wow. I did it again. Anyways, Carson Gum goes well past the 14, so move the 60 back to the race lead. But now the 60 is going to have to deal with lap traffic, which is going to cause quite a bit of things to happen, perhaps. So now that everybody has cycled through their pit stops, let's say we're going to take another look at a full field rundown to see how everybody is doing on the track and where they are now. But according to scoring, Carson Gum is the race leader. Second is Scott Groverston. Third is Joey Parkhill. Fourth, Matt McIntyre. Fifth, Stuart Campbell. Sixth, Keith Miller Jr. Seventh, Jay Jefferson. Eighth, Riley Henry. Ninth, Henry Sanford. 10th is Melissa Alexander. 11th, Caleb Kilburn. 12th is Daniel Bouchard. 13th, Jordan Forbes. 14th, Alyssa Drayson. 15th, Henry Duran. 16th, Mitchell Collins. 17th, Stephen Kalan. 18th, Jonathan Zorley. 19th, Dylan Young. 20th is Patrick Smith. 21st is Cole Deaver. 22nd, William Brock. 23rd, Aaron Macklin. 24th, Quentin Moore. 25th, Dylan Jacobs. 26th is Jackson Traeger. 27th, Rafael Leduc. 28th, Chris Dollarton. 29th, Seth Cole. 30th is Kyle Matthews. 31st, Zachary Fitzwater. 32nd, Charles Belding. 33rd, Alexander Rowe. 34th, Michael Norman. 35th is James Qualls. 36th, Jesse Turner. 37th, Daniel Voiles. 38th, Ryan Acosta. 39th, Ashlyn Boyd. And 40th is Jessica Sheldon. And these two, the 51 and the 02, are a lap down as Carson Gum has been now catching up to more lap traffic and about to try and put Ryan Acosta a lap down. Scott Groverston trying to reel in the 60, but to really no avail as he's now got 2 lap cars. Make that 3 lap cars between himself and the race leader of the 60 of Gum. And Gum about to put his teammate Daniel Voiles a lap down, and Voiles, who is one of those drivers I was hoping to stay mathematically in the hunt for the title, looks like his chances of the championship have gone up in flames. But still, Daniel Voiles looks like he's going to be the likely candidate to win the Rookie of the Year honors for Season 9, so despite not being mathematically... possibly being not mathematically in the championship at Kansas, still no shame in his season. Picked up a win at this track early in the season, been pretty much top 10, top 15 in the standings all season long, even led the points for a little while early in the season. Phenomenal rookie season, we look forward to seeing what he can do in Season 10. So despite not being able... well, it ain't over till it's over, but it seems very unlikely that Voiles is going to be able to battle for the championship at Kansas. But even with that, no shame at all for that 26 team. As now we got more lap cars between the 60 and the 42, which is helping Carson Gum stay up at the front and not have to worry about this 42 charging him down. Meanwhile, we could see a battle go on for third as Stuart Campbell currently in that spot, but Matt McIntyre wants to take that spot and also be able to tie points with Scott Groverston, because that's huge in terms of the championship battle, because they both came in 4 and 5 points behind Alyssa Drayson respectively. If Matt McIntyre were to get around Stuart Campbell, he would break even in points with Scott Groverston, as Groverston has not led a lap today. Keith Miller Jr. trying to do all he can to stay mathematically in the hunt, but I feel like his chances are going to be dashed because he's got 3 other drivers that are ahead of him in the point standings, ahead of him on the track: McIntyre, Groverston, and Gum. There's the points leader, Alyssa Drayson. Last time scored in 13th, but she's kind of caught in a bit of a hornet's nest in this like 5-car battle for 11th on track. And this time by, she was still scored 13th, but she's stuck on the top side of the racetrack, as she is surrounded by multitude of different drivers. Meanwhile, let's try and find the 12 of Fitzwater. There he is, last time scored 33rd, so he'd still be able to get points, but now he's about to be in danger of being put a lap down by Carson Gum. See here at the line, Fitzwater still scored 33rd, so he'd still be able to get points, but he's still going to lose a ton of ground in the championship hunt that he's going to have to basically hope for a big, big miracle at Kansas. Meanwhile, Scott Groverston's still trying to maneuver his way around the lap traffic in hopes that he could still have a shot of running down to 60, but it's just almost insurmountable at this rate. But Groverston's really trying his hardest to get around all these cars. But Carson Gum just having that benefit of not having to deal with a whole lot ahead of him. Whereas Groverston is just surrounded by cars, and oh, they are 3 wide off of turn 2, but they settled out to double wide, which is good, because could you have imagined if they wrecked right there and Groverston gets in there? That would have caused a huge shakeup in the championship. Let's try and go back to the points leader of Alyssa Drayson, see where she is. Still 13th, but still stuck on the outside lane, as she's still trying to find a way up there. Although this time by 14th, as she's now about to go to the inside of Jordan Forbes for the 13th spot. As up ahead, battle on for 11th, as Melissa Alexander has the spot, but Mitchell Collins is going to take it. And this in turn helps for Alyssa Drayson to try and get underneath teammate Melissa to get up to 12th on the track. Caleb Kilburn up in 10th, trying to do all he can as well to stay mathematically in contention for the championship. Currently in 10th, but now trying to get around Joey Parkhill up to 9th. So that way he can get some more points ahead of Alyssa Drayson, the points leader. Currently is now 9th on the track. Couple of teammates up here in the top 10. Actually, this has been a fairly solid race for Shadow Cold Racing. 3 of the 5 drivers for that team are in the top 10. Groverston in 2nd, Riley Henry in the 6th spot, and Jay Jefferson in 7th. So this has been a really, really good race for the most part for Shadow Cold Racing. The only ones missing are Jordan Forbes, and he's still 14th, and Dylan Jacobs in 27th. Scott Groverson trying to get around one more lapped car, and that's Kyle Matthews, and Matthews' championship hopes are pretty much dashed as well. There's Carson Gum, still having a hard time trying to get around more lap traffic. Zachary Fitzwater is really fighting him on the racetrack to try and stay on the lead lap, as Groverston actually was a little bit faster than Carson Gum on that previous lap, but I just don't see it's going to be enough time, as we will be coming to 4 laps to go here at North Wilkesboro. And Carson Gum has gotten the most laps led bonus points, which is going to really help his chances of staying alive in the championship hunt. And actually, Groverston gained about a half a second on Carson, because Carson's still having a tough time getting around some of these lap cars, but he's going to finally put Stephen Colon a lap down. But Fitzwater still fighting him on the track to stay on the lead lap. Margin of now shrunk by a 10th, which is still not a big, crazy amount like it was that previous lap where Groverston gained a half a second. And also, Groverston's got Daniel Voiles breathing down his neck, as Voiles is trying to get around him, it looked like. But it's 2 laps to go here at North Wilkesboro, and Carson Gum has come so close this season to winning a race. He's been very consistent, but he's just struggled to try and notch off a first win of the season, as he's now going to finally, perhaps, put Zachary Fitzwater a lap down. But Fitzwater fighting him on the outside line as the white flag is out for the 60 of Carson Gum. That number 60 Discord Ford out of Average Joe Enterprises. Carson Gum looking to finally break a long winless streak and keep himself alive in the championship hunt. Checkered flag waving. Carson Gum wins the Sunoco 400 at North Wilkesboro. A huge weight has been lifted off of Carson Gum's shoulders as he has finally come to victory lane in the Marvel Studios Cup Series this season, and perhaps keep his championship hopes alive. What a performance, dominating performance in fact, by that 60 car. But let's look at the rest of the results. Scott Groverston gained a lot of ground in the championship hunt, finishing in a strong second place. Matt McIntyre going to break even with Scott Groverston, finishing in a strong third place finish. And Stuart Campbell, second top 5 of the season, finishing in 4th. And Keith Miller Jr., despite a great run of 5th, his championship hopes are pretty much dashed as well. Riley Henry with his 5th career top 10 finish, finishing in the 6th spot. Jay Jefferson, solid performance in 7th. Daniel Bouchard with a great run in 8th. Mitchell Collins with a solid performance in 9th. And points leader Alyssa Drayson rounding out the top 10. Then there is your top 20, top 30. Bottom 5 for this week were Jesse Turner, Ryan Acosta, James Qualls, Ashlyn Boyd, and Jessica Shelton. So that does it for our coverage here at North Wilkesboro. One race left this season, and it's going to be for all the marbles, the championship. You will see who is all going to be eligible to compete for the championship at Kansas, mathematically speaking, that is. But until we get to the finale of Kansas, here is Carson Gum's victory burnout and the point standings heading into Kansas. And this is Levi McIntyre signing off.